Hi, hello, and welcome. Whether you are wanting to swap for major 07 profit or get yourself set up for the ultimate DMM build, everyone needs GP on day one. I've got 4 different first hour paths that you can take yourself down, and 4 later day ideas that you can take advantage of. So let's go. Before I jump into the methods, keep in mind, you do get a starter pack every single day in Deadman mode. This is going to contain a random tier 1 sigil, so I would recommend seeing what that sigil is and then leaning towards methods that get a boost from that sigil. Also keep in mind that you can pair the first hour methods with the later day methods. Pick whichever sounds most fun to you, gonna make you the most money, whatever, and then just go for it. Okay, on to the methods. Number 1 on the first hour list is gonna be zombie pirates. These were added into the game back in April of this year, and they were given an absurd drop table. Just look at these alchable drops. And this is on a mob with no defense and low HP. It's absolutely disgusting, and you can take advantage of it. In order to do these, the only thing that you need is 36 prayer so that you can use Protect from Magic, which I'll talk about getting that in a minute. I do want to have a caveat here. These are in multi and will likely be very crowded. So I wouldn't recommend doing this outside of your hour protection unless you've got some friends and a really strong PvP build. Hey, how's it going? This is a future you. Welcome. As it turns out, Mod Manked posted something in one of the Discords that means we're gonna get some additional changes to Deadman mode. So if you see me popping up throughout the video, it's because that has affected something. So if you wonder why my hair got shorter and my shirt changed, that's why. Okay, on to the zombie pirates first hour, whatever. Okay, so that out of the way. How are we gonna be getting 36 prayer in the first hour? Oh gosh, dang it, okay. Zombie pirates first hour, let's go. So we are gonna have access to fairy rings early on, which means we can pick up a Drayman staff from one of the tutors. The first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna start the X marks the spot quest. Veils will be chilling here in the bar. You're gonna come out here, you're gonna pick up a Drayman staff from one of the tutors. I don't think it matters which one that you talk to. And then we're gonna need to buy a spade in the general store. Once you got all that, we are gonna head off to Drainer Village while completing this quest, so I'll see you over there. While you are passing through Drainer Village for this quest, you are gonna find Diango, and you're gonna pick up a Chronicle plus a couple of teleports. Once you got those, just continue on, finish the quest out. Once you finish the quest, you should get an XP lamp. That is gonna be worth 3,000 XP. Go ahead and use that on prayer. It's gonna give you 16 prayer. Now, the next step, I'm gonna recommend we use the fairy rings. You don't necessarily have to, so if you wanna put a pause on that, you can. But we're gonna need to pick up some bones. So if we run south, all the way south to the Mud Skipper Point, there's a fairy ring down here that we can use. It is a little bit of a run, but I think it's gonna be worth it, and I'll show you why. Once you have made it to the fairy ring, you're gonna be using code DJR. That is Delta Juliet Romeo. And that is gonna put you out here in the Shazian, like, Fire Chasm area, and we're just gonna wanna run south. There is gonna be this pit of hill giants here, which is gonna be perfect for us. There's a ton of bones on the ground, a couple sets of big bones. Ultimately, we are gonna be using these on the Chaos Altar. You're gonna need 29 normal bones, but since you can save some, probably need about 20. The big bones are essentially worth 3 of the normal bones, so you figure out that math. You'll probably want to just fill your inventory best you can with bones. So pick up the big bones, pick up the little bones, just pick all of this stuff up, and after you do this twice, you should have enough. They do respawn fairly quickly. You can hop if you want by stepping out of the pit and then switching worlds. You probably don't need to though, unless it's really crowded or something. I mean, like you could see there, the big bones, they all respawned for me. So this inventory should be enough. I've got a couple extra spaces. You do want to make sure to leave 2 spaces here for what we're about to be doing. Okay, bones acquired. Use the Chronicle to teleport yourself to Varrock. And then we're gonna be running north up to the museum. As a side note, if you happen to be going range, you can stop by the Varrock range shop and pick yourself up a bone crossbow and some bone bolts. The problem with the starter weapons is you can't attack players, so you may want something to defend yourself, and you're definitely gonna get up to level 28 range in order to use that. So you can spend your starter cash and end up with a bone crossbow and like 1,000 bolts at this point. Be pretty good. But now that you're at the museum, we are gonna head up to the 2nd floor. And then we're going to be talking to this guy, Historian Minus. Because of the quests that are auto-completed in Deadman mode, he's going to be giving you 2 XP lamps worth 10,000 each. You can't quite use them in prayer yet, you have to be level 20, so that's why we need the bones. So now that you've got those lamps, it's time to head out to the wilderness. Now, if you skipped gathering bones earlier, you didn't want to use fairy rings for whatever reason, you can pick up bones in a couple different places. There's a lot of normal bones over here in the small Laren's chest ruins thing. There's also a lot of bones in the mammoth pit over here, though do be careful with the mammoths. It's multi over there and their max hit is 7, so if you get more than one on you, you're probably gonna die. You could, of course, go up to the boneyard here in the wilderness. There are a lot of big bones, a lot of normal bones. The problem that I think you're gonna have with this is a lot of people love to rush out here for prayer, so it's gonna be pretty competitive. But in either case, the goal for us, once we've got all the bones, is to make it out to this altar here. So I would recommend, as you're running up, give the obelisk teleports a try. If you get lucky, you're looking for the one in level 44 wilderness, then you can run west and run south to avoid the boss there, and you'll be at the altar. If you get unlucky, you may end up at the level 19 obelisk and get smacked by something. And the thing about Deadman mode is if you're in combat, you can't teleport. So if you land at the level 19 obelisk, just run up to the altar at that point, because it's going to be such a pain in the butt. The black unicorns there and the Ents, they just stick to you. And here we are. Once you're at the altar, all that's left is to use the bones and then use the lamp on prayer. If you do happen to get unlucky on the bones like I just did, you can come down over here and pick up the 2 bone spawns. Super, super risky with the Enkus here, especially because I don't have any food. You can hopefully get aggro on like the skeleton or the ghost, make it slightly safer for yourself, and then, pick up the couple of bones there. Congratulations, you are now 37 prayer, which is the prayer level that you need for Protect from Magic. So now that you're done with that, you're just gonna head up here to the north and then east to get on the obelisk. You are looking for the level 19 obelisk now, or the one next to the Ferox Enclave that's also pretty close in level 14, and on to the zombie pirates. Now these can deal damage to you, they melee, so just be a little bit careful, especially at the early levels. You can get them stuck around some things, so it's not the worst. And depending on your luck with the teleports and what sigil you got, you could have anywhere from like 20 minutes all the way up to like 40 minutes to kill these. You're gonna fly through the combat levels, so you're gonna end up having a really easy time killing these after like 2 or 3 minutes. Now, if you end up getting super, 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 super lucky on the drops, you may be able to transition this over to the Revenant Caves. Costs 100k to get in there. They're also going to drop a lot of alkables, but the added bonus of going there is you have the chance of getting a Revenant weapon, which those I think are going to be worth quite a bit in this Deadman season because of one of the new sigils that's coming into the game. So if you've got like stacked RNG on RNG, you might be able to get to the Rev Caves with a little bit of protection left. Now, in terms of helpful sigils, we have got the Sigil of Stamina, which is the permanent stamina potion effect. Yeah, so one of the changes is actually going to be essentially infinite run. It can still go down from like PvP mechanics and weapon specials and things like that, but you can run everywhere, so the Sigil of Stamina is gonna be disabled. Besides that one, you're really just looking for any aggressive sigils, anything that can help you with combat. So things like Sigil of Deft Strikes for 20% more accuracy against NPCs, Sigil of Consistency for +1 damage on every hit. There are gonna be sigils related to melee, mage, and range. I'd recommend leaning towards mage and range if you can, just because you can safe spot the pirates like I'm doing here. There's also the Sigil of Resistance, which lets you regen your HP 15 times faster. So that one will also be pretty good since you can take a little bit of damage while you're here and also early on in the run. Plus, don't forget to pick your starter sigil as well. You're gonna have an option to pick a tier 2 for either mage, range, or melee. So make sure that you've done that as well. Number 2 on the first hour list is gonna be the Agility Pyramid. In the DMM seasons, the pyramid tops are worth 30,000 GP each when traded into Simon Templeton. The only requirement to start is 35 agility, though your fail rate's gonna be pretty high until maybe around like 70 agility, so just be prepared for that. I've got 2 options for you for that first hour path. The first one is going to have us running over to Draenor. Back in May of this year, the agility course was actually changed, and now it no longer has an agility requirement, so that's what we're going to be looking to do. Make sure to hit a couple of goblins or spiders or whatever along the way, because you're going to want to get at least 1 HP level. When you fail the agility pyramid, you can take up to 10 damage, and you don't want to just fall off your first obstacle and die and have to run back there. That would be really sad, and totally didn't happen to me. While you're here in Draenor, go ahead and pick up a Chronicle from Diango. Again, maybe a couple of teleports. And then you're going to need to do 4 laps of the Draenor agility course. Once those 4 laps are done, go ahead and use the Chronicle to teleport yourself over to Varrock. And just like with the zombie pirates, we're going to be headed straight to the Varrock Museum on the 2nd floor. Grab your 2 XP lamps from this guy and use them straight on agility, and that should put you at 35. And then go ahead and use your home teleport to get back to Lumbridge. With that home teleport done, you're going to need to make your way all the way down to here. This is where the agility pyramid is. Cut through this gate here to get into Al-Kharid, and then make your way south to the Shanty Pass. While you are at the Shanty Pass, go ahead and pick up some desert robes. It's going to help you not have to drink so much water while you're out there in the desert heat, and also buy like 5 water skins. Don't forget your Shanty Pass. And then we are going to head through here and take the magic carpet to Paul Nivnich. Now, while you are passing through Paul Nivnich, talk to Ali the barman. He sells jugs of wine, which are great early food. The student among you may be noting that Draenor Village has some as well. You can pick up some wines while you're there, but considering it's basically the best food for anyone who's ranged or mage, they're probably gonna be out of stock. Plus, while you're doing the agility pyramid, if you need more food, you can just come back here. And then we're taking the carpet off to Narda. From the carpet, I recommend just running directly south. You're pretty close to the agility pyramid. There's a couple of jackals and things running around out here in the desert, so if you go straight to it, you may take a little bit of damage, and depending on how much HP you have, you may not survive. So by going south and then following the rim, you're gonna keep yourself pretty safe. But all that's left now to do is run the agility pyramid. If you've done everything right, this option will get you here in 10 minutes or less. When I was testing, I want to say it was about 9 minutes for me to get here. Now, for the second option, you could go the route of completing the Tourist Trap quest. I'm not going to go into super detail of what that run looks like. I think Spicy Milk has a good rundown of that path if you want to see it, and I'm going to link it up here for you. This path will take you anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, and it's going to put you up to 49 agility. Now, from my point of view, unless you need the Varrock Museum lamps for something else, I just recommend going for the first option, because you're going to get here really fast. And in my testing, I was able to get maybe 2 to 5 more agility pyramid tops compared to running through and doing the quest, even though your agility level is low. And that's because you get XP so much faster in Dead Man mode that in the time difference, that extra like 20 to 30 minutes, I was getting really close to being the same agility level anyway as someone who completed the quest, plus having those additional tops. So that's my recommendation in terms of options, but you can definitely check out doing the Tourist Trap if you need those Varrock Museum lamps for something else in your build. In terms of helpful sigils, you're really just looking for the Sigil of Stamina, disabled. Another good one is going to be the Sigil of Lith. It gives you 2 times your agility level as XP while you're running around, so long as you're not in a safe zone. So if you get that one, it can help you just level up your agility a little bit faster. You may be able to get away with doing 3 laps at the Draenor course, and then of course it'll get your level up faster while you're here running the agility pyramid. The last sigil, while it doesn't really help you specifically with this run, would be the Sigil of Agile Fortune. It gives you an extra 10k anytime that you have a Mark of Grace spawn. Since you are going to be doing a couple of laps on the Draenor rooftop course, you can potentially get a little bit of extra GP. I would definitely prefer the other 2, but since you don't exactly have a choice, I mean, if you get that one, at least it has its uses. Third one on the first hour list is gonna be hunting chins. Chins are probably the best ranging XP in the game, so these little things are going to be valuable all the way through to the end of Dead Man mode. The problem is you need 53 hunter in order to catch gray chins, plus the Eagle's Peak quest completed, so it's gonna be tough to pull off in the first hour. Now, I've got 2 options for you in terms of the first hour. Both are very similar, but one is going to involve Varlamore, and that is going to be the one that I recommend. We are going to be starting in Lumbridge, and you're going to want to run to the Lumbridge swamp. We need to pick up some swamp tar. I'm always a little bit paranoid with quest related items, so I'd recommend picking up 2. There should be a bunch of tar just kind of littered all over the swamp once you get in here. There's 1 and there's 2. Okay, next we're gonna run up to Farmer Fred's farm, and we've gotta pick a couple of onions. Make sure to grab your Daemon staff from the tutors on your way up to Fred's farm. You only need to pick 2. I'm gonna pick 4 because I always get a little bit paranoid that I'm gonna screw something up with one of these quest-related items, and we're gonna need these later. Once you got the onions, run over to Drainer Village, where we're gonna wanna do 2 things. We are gonna wanna have Aggie make us some yellow dye. Since I didn't eat the onions, I'm gonna have her make 2. And then, of course, we're going to want to pick up the Chronicle from Diango. Again, make sure to get some teleports. You may even want to pick up 5, because we're going to be using this potentially a lot. So use the Chronicle and teleport off to Varrock. While we're here, if you want to go to Varlamore with me, you're going to have to do 3 things. Otherwise, you're going to do 2. For the Varlamore folks, you're going to complete the Children of the Sun quest. Once that's done, or if you're skipping that, we're going to head over to the Varrock Museum. First, you're going to want to go downstairs in the museum and complete the history quiz. Completing the quiz should put you at 27 Hunter, and then we are gonna go upstairs here. Gonna be a little bit of a broken record with this guy. You're gonna talk to him and get your 2 XP lamps. Use those on Hunter. That's gonna get you to 37. That is everything that you need in Varrock. So now we're gonna need to make our way over to Ardoin Zoo to start the Eagle's Peak quest. The easiest way to do this is gonna be to home teleport. Go to the graveyard, talk to Nigel, and use your once daily teleport to get yourself over to Ardoin. You can start the Eagle's Peak quest here in Ardoin Zoo by talking to Charlie, and then once you get that quest started, you're gonna have to make your way up to Eagle's Peak, which is all the way up here. I would recommend going and using this fairy ring down here, and then use the code AKQ or Alpha Kilo Quebec. That'll save you a little bit of time walking. Now, at some point during this quest, you're gonna have to make some eagle costumes. So use the Chronicle to teleport yourself back to Varrock. It's gonna save you a bunch of time and having to get here. That way you can get over to the fancy dress shop pretty quickly, get that costume made. Once you've got the costumes made, you have to make your way back out to Eagle's Peak. And the easiest way to do that is gonna be by running up to the Edgeville Fairy Ring. Once you're here, you're gonna use the code AKQ again, or Alpha Kilo Quebec, to get yourself back up to the Piscatoris Hunter area, save you a bunch of time walking. Once you finish up the quest, you should be at 43 Hunter, and you'll find yourself here in the Ardoin Zoo. Now, this is where the paths are gonna split a little bit. For my non-Barlamore friends, we are going to be heading back up to the falconry area and start catching kebbits. So again, you can use that fairy ring that's down here just southeast of the zoo, and then you're going to be taking the code AKQ Alpha Kilo Quebec to get yourself back up here where falconry happens. You're gonna have to catch about 100 spotted kebbits in order to hit 53 Hunter. You're also gonna have to worry about getting more box traps, but we'll talk about that in a second. For those of you who are following me to Varlamore, you can teleport with the Chronicle to bring yourself back to Varrock, and then we're gonna be taking the Quetzal, which is over here on the east side. Once you're here in the city, you wanna make your way down to the shack that's in the sort of like bottom left. Go upstairs in this little shack, and there's a box trap spawn that you can pick up, and you can hop through a couple of the worlds and pick up, you'll want at least 4, probably 5. Once you got all those box traps, then you're gonna be heading all the way out here west of the Hunter Guild. And here we are. Just west of the Hunters Guild are these ember-tailed gerbos. Gerboas? Golly, dude, sometimes the names in this game. You're gonna be catching these all the way up until 53 Hunter. Should be about 60 of them or so. So shouldn't take you too long, especially with all those box traps. Congratulations, you are now 53 Hunter. For my non-Barlamore friends, you've now got to pick up some more box traps. I would recommend, since you're already up here, head over to this fairy ring, and you can use the code CIQ or Charlie India Quebec. And that is gonna put you down here right next to Yanil, so you can run south, head into the city, and you can buy box traps from the Hunter shop here. Once you've got those, everybody's good on box traps, there are 3 areas where you can hunt chins. The first area is gonna be the Piscatoris Hunter area. You've got gray chins out here. Probably the easiest way to get out here would be the fairy ring. The second area is gonna be this sort of like southwestern part of Shazian in the Curran Woodlands. There's a couple of ways you can get here. You can take the charter ships or Veos to get yourself down to this port here and run north. Or you can take one of the ferry rings I'd recommend the one over here next to Raids 1, because then you can come down to this mountain guide and travel back to the entrance and then run over to the chins. But you could also use the fairy ring that we used earlier next to the Chasm of Fire and then just run south. The last area where you can hunt great chins is going to be the Isle of Souls. You can use this fairy ring here and run to the west to get to this spot, or you can make your way to Edgeville or the Ferox Enclave, use the portal to get in here, and run around to get to that spot. Now, because there is so much running around in this quest, there is a high chance that you'll already have blown through your hour of protection. So just be a little bit careful when you're hunting chins. A lot of PKers, a lot of clans love to lock down these different spots. So have a teleport at the ready, like the Chronicle. You can use the menu swapper plugin, and you can make the left click option to teleport, which is what I've done here. That way you don't have to have it equipped. It can just be in your inventory, be a one click. You don't have to like go over to your worn equipment or anything. So that's what I'd recommend. And of course, since Great Chins scale super well, I mean, you can hunt them as long as you want. They're going to be good. You can even move up to red chins or black chins, although I imagine black chins are probably going to be the most contested, so just be really careful out there. Number 4 on the first hour list is going to be mining. This skill is just generally good because ores make bars, bars make alkables, and alkables can be alked for GP. Whether you want to alk it or maybe you want to sell it to a shop, both of those options are good. This also scales well into the later stages of the game because you get access to Ruinite at level 85. So with that hour of protection, we are going to try and jumpstart our mining level up to 41. That way you can immediately use a Ruin pickaxe. Hopefully that'll mean you can be one of the earlier Ruinite rock miners and make just absolute bank. Helpful sigils you can be looking out for. You've got the Sigil of Stamina, again. It's everywhere, and it's still disabled. The Sigil of the Forager, which gives you 2 times resources from gathering skills, and the Sigil of Storage, which lets you bank 90% of the things that you gather. So, starting off in Lumbridge, I have got 2 options for you, very similar. You're going to be trying to complete that X marks the spot quest. So again, meeting Beos over in this pub here to start the quest, and then we're going to be heading off to Draenor. While you're here in Draenor, you're going to be picking up a Chronicle with a couple of teleports. I love you, little Chronicle. The other thing that you can do here, if you got the Sigil of Storage, run 1 lap of the rooftop course, just so you can make sure that you'll have above 5 agility. Once you have finished X marks the spot, you're going to get that XP lamp, use it on mining. It's going to immediately put you up to 16 mining, and then we're going to be running west towards the Remington mine. This one over here. If you happen to drop your bronze pickaxe, there is one in this building here, so don't worry about that. This is just a little bit southwest of the mine. While you're in this mine, you want to make sure that you pick up 6 clay, 4 copper, and 2 iron. Outside of those things, you don't technically have to keep any of the other ore. You're going to want to mine at least 11 iron ore, or if those are too competitive, too slow, you can mine 22 of the copper and tin, and that's going to give you the same amount of XP. The goal here is to get up to 8,500 XP, or you can mine an extra rock that'll get you to 26 mining if that makes it a little easier for you to track. If this mine is too crowded, which it might be especially early on, grab your clay and then you can run north. There's this little mine over here west of Falador. It has iron, tin, and copper, so you can still get the rest of the stuff up here. It is a smaller mine, there's less rocks, so unless this mine here in Remington is really crowded, I wouldn't go up there, but it is an option for you. With all of your ore in hand, we are going to be going north of Falador. If you're in the Remington mine, you can go up through the city. Might be a little bit faster. Ultimately, we are wanting to head up to Doric's little shack up there, so see you there in a second. And of course, once you're here, you're going to magically have everything that he needs for his quest, so go ahead and complete that. The XP drop from this quest should put you at 34 mining, so if you're there, you're doing good. Now use the Chronicle to teleport yourself off to Varrock. This is going to sound really familiar. We're going to be running to the Varrock Museum. Talk to this man here, get yourself your 2 XP lamps, use them on mining, and you should be 41 mining now. Congratulations. You can use the Rune Pickaxe. Can't afford it yet. We're gonna circle back. Now, if for whatever reason you can't use the Varrock Museum lamps because you're using them for some other part of your build, then the second option, basically the same as the first. You're gonna run through, you're trying to do X marks the spot. While you're in Draenor, pick up your Chronicle. If you happen to have the Sigil of Storage, run a lap around the Draenor rooftop course because it can help if you end up needing to access the Falador Bank from the Western Mine. And then you're heading over to the Remington Mine, and you're just gonna have to mine it out. You still wanna hold on to the 6 clay, 4 copper, and 2 iron, because you can still complete Doric's quest. But instead, while you are in the Remington Mine, you're gonna wanna mine 51 iron or 102 copper or tin, which basically means you're not leaving the Remington Mine until you're at 21,500 XP or 35 mining, give or take. Now that everyone is 41 mining, you can use the Ruin Pickaxe. Like I mentioned earlier, you probably can't afford it. Maybe if you had the Sigil of Storage and you decided to mine it out rather than use the XP lamps, you might have enough stuff in the bank to actually sell on the GE and buy a pickaxe. But for most folks, you're not going to be able to. So you can either walk from where you are in the Varrock Museum over here, and you can buy a different pickaxe from the shop down in the Falador Mine. You should be able to afford an adamant pickaxe, so you can go for that upgrade, and then you'll probably just have to mine for a little bit before you can afford the Rune Pickaxe. Outside of getting yourself the pickaxe, I would prioritize getting the Sigil of the Forager and the storage sigils together as early as you can, because this is gonna help you make so much more money and make things so much more AFK for the next couple of hours. Just as an idea, you'll be able to do something like power mining iron up to level 85 while also keeping most of the iron. Just remember that Ruinite rocks are really the goal here. While I'm not going to give an exhaustive list, I do want to point out a few good locations that you can work towards as you're falling down this mining rabbit hole. The mining guild has 2 Ruinite rocks. It is going to get competitive as time goes on, but will be good if you're one of the first few here, and hopefully with this you will be. The Central Fremnik Isle mine has 1 Ruinite rock. It does require that you've started the Fremnik Isles quest, but doing this in bracket 1 is going to be good because the quest isn't auto-completed until bracket 2. So if you do this, you probably won't have a lot of competition, and you'll also have access to the Jatizo mine, which has iron, mithril, and adamant. So that can be another good place to go if things are getting too competitive, too much PKing happening in the mining guild. The Fossil Island mine has 2 rocks, requires completion of Bone Voyage. The Heroes Guild mine has 2 rocks, completion of the Heroes quest, of course, to access that one. And then the Isofdar mine, golly, the names, man, the elven names, that has 2 rocks and requires the completion of the Underground Pass. Again, with this one, bonus points if you can do it during bracket 1, since the quest is auto-completed in bracket 2. So if you can do this early, probably won't have a lot of competition. The last one that I'll mention is the South Morol Wreck mine. Has 3 Ruinite rocks, but it does require a fire cape. If anyone's curious, this is the place where Solo Mission went to make a whole bunch of money in the last Deadman Mode season. You can find a full list of Ruinite rocks on the wiki. I'm gonna put a link down in the description. That way you can see if there's any other areas that you might want to try and work towards. But at least for the first hour, you have got yourself a Ruinite pickaxe, hopefully a couple of sigils, and making some good money on maybe like iron ore or mithril ore or something like that. Now that is the end of the first hour method. So I want to take a little bit of time and talk about some ideas for later in the day. You get like 3, 4, 5 hours in and you're still looking to make money, just in case some of these other methods are becoming too competitive, too heated, too many PKers, whatever. Number 1 is gonna be breaches. In Deadman mode, at these times shown on screen, portals open up and boss monsters spawn. Killing these results in crazy amounts of loot, with a rare chance at emblems. These can be traded for all kinds of stuff in the DMM shop and subsequently sold on the GE for good profit. And there's also a rare chance at any of the PvP weapons. These are the strongest weapons in Deadman mode, so you know that they're gonna be worth a lot of money. Deadman mode is starting on the 19th, but they haven't announced the start time just yet. But you will likely have at least 3 to 4 hours before you have to worry about breaches, so you're gonna have some time to prepare. In terms of stats, the only real thing that you have to worry about is getting 43 prayers so that you have all of the protection prayers. That said, you can only get these rare drops if you deal the most damage to the bosses and get the MVP rating. So you'll probably want to aim for either a high level magic spell or the Ruined Crossbow. Do keep in mind that Ruby Bolt's E are not going to work at the breaches during this Deadman mode season, so don't rely on that if you're going the range route. You also can't use your Hour of Protection at multi-breaches, so unless you have friends, you're probably sticking to singles. There are open CCs sometimes that do relatively well, so if you really want to brave the multi-breaches, just stick around the GE when the breach is going to start and see what people are talking about. You might be able to join one of the clans that are there. Helpful sigils for the breaches are going to be really anything that increases your damage and accuracy for the style that you're picking. Again, I'm going to say range or mage, because if you're going melee and you're going to try and melee bosses, it's gonna be really rough for you. Don't do that. But anything that ups your damage. It's also good, especially if you're in the lower brackets, to look for any of the tank type sigils. There are some out there like the Sigil of Resistance, which makes you take less damage from NPCs. So any of those will be good, but nothing specifically that you have to go for these. Number 2 is going to be rushing bosses. I'm just going to spit out a couple of ideas for you. We've got Barrows, Zulrah, Ziliana, and Krill. Now, with the combat rework, rebalance, whatever they called it, Barrows became really weak to air spells, so you can probably complete it at some pretty low levels. You might even be able to go as low as 41 magic with something like Wind Blast. I would probably go at least 59 magic if you're going to rush to Barrows, because that'll give you some extra max hits. And of course, with all of these bosses, you're going to have to make sure that you pick up Protection Prayers. Now, one benefit of rushing Barrows early on is you're going to get a lamp worth 200,000 prayer XP on your first chest, assuming that you've killed all of the brothers. And it has no level requirement to use it, so if you find a way to do Barrows without prayer on the first run, you'll get enough XP for the Protection Prayers moving forward. I don't know that I'd recommend that. You probably want to get Protection Prayers before, because it's going to be really rough tanking through something like Carols, but you know, you get some binds, you run around, maybe. Now, not only is Barrows good PVM gear, but this is also going to be the armor that probably 90% of the people wear for the final hour. So it'll keep its value relatively well during the season, and especially if you're rushing this, if you're one of the first few people to pull something like Arims or Carols, you're going to be making a ton of money. Jumping to the money snake, you can actually use fire spells here. Zulrah was made weak to fire spells as part of that combat rework, so I would still recommend getting 75 magic and 75 range if you're gonna rush to Zulrah, along with the Protection Prayers, of course, just because it's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt to kill otherwise. Now, something nice about Zulrah is it's instanced, so once you get into the boss pit, you're totally safe. And at least in the last season, you were able to enter the boss lair while you were in combat. So it was really safe once you started getting Zulrah teleports. You just teleport, run in. In terms of drops that you're looking for, all of them are going to be good. The Serpentine Visage is probably the best tank helm for the final hour, so that is one that's going to hold a lot of value. But of course, you know, like the Blowpipe and the Fang, they're good for PVM. And then Onyxes, everybody's going to need an Onyx for things like a Fury or any of the Zenite jewelry, so all of the drops are going to be good here. If you want to try Ziliana, you're going to be going like a ranged tank route. You do need 70 agility to get into the boss arena, so you probably pair this with something like Agility Pyramid early on. And then I'd recommend getting 70 range, 70 defense, and the Protection Prayers. Now, the Armadillo crossbow is going to be a really strong weapon overall. And with Nex being available, you're probably going to get some people who are trying to go for the Zerite crossbow. There are some good setups for specials, so I imagine that killing Ziliana for the Armadillo crossbow is going to be pretty good money. The last one that I threw out there, Krill. This is if you're going melee. That's probably the easiest way to kill him. You're going to have to get 70s in your melee stats just all around, plus Protection Prayers. I mean, bonus points if you can get the Arc Light to use as your weapon, because you're going to be doing a lot of damage. In terms of drops, the Staff of the Dead is a strong mage weapon. The Zami Spear, it will be useful for PVM, and I mean, I guess if you've got like some clans who want to ball out for the spec, they don't want to use the Dragon Spears, you know, it does have a little bit of value, and the ZGS spec can freeze people, so there's actually some uses for that as well. Of course, with this, you can rush any boss that you want, any of the drops are gonna be good. You just have to think about what are the things that high-level PVMers and especially what high-level PvPers are looking for, because that's really gonna be where the money's at. Number 3 on the list is going to be sigil farming / bracket rushing. There are always some really strong sigils every season that fetch crazy prices. You do need to be in the higher brackets in order to have a chance of getting these drops. So if you're going this route, you will get a few days worth of relative safe farming if you're one of the first few into the higher brackets, because it takes time for people to migrate up through all of them. The downside is, as clans start to lock down the higher brackets, you're gonna have less areas, bosses, and so on available to you later on in the season. So if you want to be doing a lot of activities for points, you may not want to go this route. Little Rat Bags OSRS has a great video talking about some more secluded places that you can farm for sigils if you do end up taking this route. I'm going to link that video at the top in the description as well if you want to check that out. Number 4 on the list is going to be flipping. With a new economy comes new opportunities. Everything's price is going to be super volatile, but especially sigils. Since everyone gets a free tier 1 sigil, these can be especially good right at the start of DMM. If you need some quick cash, you'll get your 5k at the start from the starter pack, along with your sigil, and you can stop by the Strongholds of Security for an additional 10k if you need it. Another great time to flip is right before and right after the breaches. Beforehand, people are trying to gear up quickly so you can sell key supplies at marked up prices. And then after the breaches, because the breaches drop so many supplies, like ruins and alkables and everything, you can often buy them up at super cheap directly after, as everybody's just gonna be dumping everything into the GE. So, herbs, combat ruins, food, potions, just all of it. If you time it well, you can buy all of that up and sell it back a few hours later. Or, right before the next breach, probably the same people who sold it to you, and make a nice profit. Now, I am far from a flipping expert, so if you want to go into this a little bit more, Flipping Old School actually has a good video from the last Deadman mode season that you can pick through for some ideas, and I'll link that at the top in the description if you want to check it out. Now, if you're itching for more Deadman mode content and ideas, hit the subscribe button, because I am gonna be doing a mini series once the season kicks off. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you there.